I've got cancer. No, yep, yeah, where? Where is of no concern of anybody. I've known since May. Jeremy Clarkson is mid-sentence about Harvest Logistics when he stops, looks at the two people next to him and says something that has nothing to do with farming at all. I've got cancer. No, you haven't. Where? Television presenter Jeremy Clarkson has revealed that he's been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Mr. Clarkson shared his diagnosis with fellow presenters on his Prime Video show, Clarkson's Farm, and said he'd had an operation to remove 10% of his prostate. He described the disease as aggressive, but said that it had been caught at a really early stage. To be here for a little while? That's Kaleb Cooper, 27 years old. No script, no warning, no chance to compose himself before the camera caught his face changing in real time. 4 words fired back before his brain had caught up with what he'd just heard. That single exchange, 6 seconds of unscripted television, has now been watched, clipped, and shared more than almost anything else to come out of Clarkson's Farm in 5 years. But the clip everyone's seen is only the beginning of the story. What Kaleb actually said afterward, away from the cameras in his own words, is the part most people watching haven't caught yet. I mean, he's like a best mate. I know we argue, and of course everybody sees the argument and I'll sit there and go, yeah, he's an idiot. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if we have an argument, we argue a lot, as you know. 10 minutes after the argument, it's like, you hold a grudge, or do you go, do you want a cup of tea? Welcome back to Farm and Fame. Today belongs to Kaleb. To understand why that scene hits as hard as it does, you have to understand who Kaleb Cooper actually is to Jeremy Clarkson, because it's easy to watch 5 seasons of a television show and assume the relationship is mostly comic. The blunt farm manager correcting the posh television presenter, the straight man, and the punchline. That was never the whole truth, and the cancer scene is the moment the show finally let the rest of it show through. Kaleb didn't come from a farming family. His parents divorced when he was 12, and rather than drifting, he went the other way entirely. 13, he was given responsibility for 3 chickens and 4 acres of land. Within months, that had turned into 450 hens. Their eggs sold to his own teachers and to whoever else in the area would buy them. At 14, he was breeding sheep and working a dairy farm. At 15, he bought his first tractor. By the time most teenagers are figuring out what they might want to do with their lives, Kaleb had already built one brick by brick on land that wasn't his. He studied agriculture at Morton Morrell College, then started his own farm contracting business in 2016, while he was still barely out of his teens. One of the farms on his books belonged to a man who just decided, somewhat famously, to stop being a television presenter and start being a farmer instead. Kaleb had actually worked that same land years earlier, before Jeremy ever bought it under its previous manager. So when Clarkson's Farm began filming in 2019, Kaleb wasn't a hired actor playing a country bumpkin for laughs. He was the only person on that farm who actually knew what he was doing, brought in by a man who very much did not. That history matters because it's the difference between a colleague and what Jeremy's cancer diagnosis revealed Kaleb actually is to him. Not someone he employs, someone he trusts enough to tell first. It's a relationship the show itself has always slightly undersold for comic effect. Across 5 seasons, Jeremy plays the bumbling employer, and Kaleb plays the no-nonsense local who has to correct him scene after scene, usually for laughs. It's a format that works, and it's part of why the show has found an audience of tens of millions worldwide. But formats like that tend